Hopefully this doesn't look too janky. I can't tell. What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, you probably came from Instagram, I would have to guess. But I am currently trying to build a minifig scale Republic C-70 retrofit Charger frigate. I got it. Let's go. If you don't know what that is, it's this right here. It's the ship from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and technically it's the consular frigate from the start of the Phantom Menace. But in the Clone Wars, it was retrofitted to be a warship. It was one of the first, to get into a little bit of the lore, it was one of the first ships that the Republic had in their navy, because they didn't have any ships at the start of the war. I mean, they did. They were mostly still in production and at Camino. But that was one of the first ships that they were able to retrofit and get ready for war. Recently, I've been rewatching Star Wars in chronological order. I've been watching all of it. I'm currently at the Bad Batch, so I just finished the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. And in rewatching the Clone Wars, this ship popped up a lot. Like, it pops up in a lot of the episodes. And starting in episode 1, you see it right away, and then you even see it in season 7 in the Bad Batch episodes. So this ship is throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars, and it's kind of become my favorite ship. It used to be the LAAT. The Venator is still up there. That's probably still my favorite ship. Who doesn't love the Venator? I pre-ordered that thing the second it came out, USCS. Oh, I need to slow down. Excuse me. But I think my second favorite is now the Republic Frigate. Something about it's just really cool. I do want to talk a little bit about why I chose this ship specifically. And one, because it is my second favorite ship in the Clone Wars. But why minifig scale? I've seen this ship done before. Obviously, Lego did it in play scale. And I've seen a couple mock creators do UCS versions. But UCS isn't exactly minifig scale for this ship, because this thing's pretty big, as I've found out starting to build it. But I wanted to do a ship in minifig scale. And I was thinking about some different ships, and I could do a starfighter, but everyone's done a minifig scale starfighter. Even Lego has pretty much done minifig scale starfighters. I could have done an LAAT, since that's one of my favorite ships, but I mean, Lego's done that. Everyone has done that. I wanted to do something unique. I could have done a ground-based vehicle, but I really wanted to do a spaceship, even though the Juggernaut and ATTE are so cool. If you can't tell, I'm a huge fan of prequel era ships. And so I was thinking, and then I had thought about the new class attack shuttle, because that is also a really cool ship. I think that one is very underrated and underutilized in the Clone Wars. And so I couldn't get too big. I thought about the Republic Medical Frigate, but that one's even bigger than the Charger Frigate. So then as I was rewatching the Clone Wars, I stumbled across the Republic Charger Frigate, the C-70, in rewatching, and I'm like, that might be a good ship. And so, as I was watching, I found that it was in all these episodes. I think it appears in like every season. Maybe at some point I'll go back and find every single episode. But I think just watching the Clone Wars kind of decided for me that I thought that was a really cool ship. So the next step was to find reference material. Finding reference material was the hardest part of this build. Well, I shouldn't say that, because the build's not done. But the setup of the build, finding reference material, was really hard. And there's a couple of reasons. The first reason is there isn't an official floor plan or deck plan of the Charger frigate, the consular class frigate. The closest official thing we have is in this book here, Ultimate Star Wars Edition. Actually, I lied. It might not be this book. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, it's not this book. It's a different book. I'll throw the picture up on screen. I don't know what book it's from, but this picture here is the official cross section. Oh, that's what it's from. It's from the Star Wars It's from the Star Wars cross section book of spaceships and locations. I'm pretty sure is what it is. And it shows the floors and like all the rooms and everything, but it doesn't give you a close-up picture of what all that is. And so that was all I had to start with working on. That was the official picture. So then I had to do some deep diving, and I found, I think, 5 total fan depictions of what the interior decks could look like. Now, I do know for a fact that it has 4 decks. There's the top deck, which is the bridge, the second deck, which is crew quarters, the third deck, which is the main deck, where dignitaries, senators, the like, all kind of reside and can have meetings and everything. And then the fourth deck, which is storage and cargo and loading. So I did find that out. I will throw the images I have up on screen right now. I found them mostly on Reddit, a couple of Google searches, had to do a lot of digging. And I think with the amount I have, that'll be enough for me to kind of go through and pick and choose what I want to do. And I do have kind of a plan laid out now for what I'm going to use. As I was watching the Clone Wars, I also went through and grabbed reference images from in the show. And I'll get into it in another bit here, what my second problem was. But I grabbed as many reference photos as I could from the interior and exterior. But that led to my second problem. So my second problem with finding reference material in watching the Clone Wars is that the Clone Wars doesn't scale properly, and they're pretty inconsistent with what they show on screen. I think I have some images I can throw up here, but basically when watching the Clone Wars, you see certain scenes that show up. Let me pull it up on my phone so I can describe it to you. I'll throw these images up on screen while you're watching, so you'll know kind of, you can follow along here. So basically, let's go. So I have a lot of outside reference images, so those will be nice. But then you can see here, I have images of the cockpit. This image here with Ayla Secura and the clones from that episode is the one that I'm using for scaling reference. But as you can see, it's different scale in 2 different shots from the same episode. So in this shot, the seats are far apart. Ayla Secura can stand between the 2. But then in this shot here, the seats are really close to each other and the walls are kind of smushed together. So it looks like there's not that much room in the cockpit. But this picture I don't think is very accurate. But then we go back to this image from a different episode, the Boba Fett episode where he sabotages the Venator to get back at Mace Windu. And you can see the seats are wide again. And yeah, and then later in a different episode, it goes back to the seats being wide, but you can't stand between them. So it's kind of weird. Like, they have scaling issues in the show. You can see here the seats are wide again, but you can stand between them. So it's kind of hard to get a feel. I think a lot of this is going to have to be guesswork. But my other issue is they don't, since there's no official deck plan for this ship, when they show different shots of the ship, the interior isn't accurate. So, for example, in the episode that inspired this build, let me start a new clip here. Okay, so in the episode that inspired this build, I forget what the episode was called, but it's the one where the frigate gets damaged while Anakin's trying to rescue Aayla Secura, and they go into hyperspace while damaged and everything. In this episode, you can see the frigate docking below the Venator. It comes up, it docks. Let's see, where's the image? Where is it? Right here, you can see it docking. Then you get the exterior shot of it connected. I know I have the shot. Where is it? There it is. Right here. You can see the exterior of the boarding ramp on the side. And so that all works. That's all accurate. But then you see the interior where the boarding is, right here, where they're dragging Anakin in, where that boarding ramp is, or boarding tube, and there's just a hallway right here for some reason. And that's not accurate. Because the boarding ramp is on the second floor, as you can see right here. This is the second floor plan that I have that I'm basing most of this off of. Here's the airlock, that boarding ramp. There's no hallway there because the airlock is at the back of the ship towards the engines, so there can't be a hallway. And if there was, there's a turbo lift there. So I mean, I don't know. So that's my second problem is the show. Like, I understand the show is on limitations, on a budget. They're just going to show a basic spaceship hallway, right? So I'm not that, like, upset, but it does make it kind of hard to decipher, like, because the show is canon. So, like, if I want it to be super accurate, I should go off the show. But that's not realistic to what it would be in universe, right? So, like, it's like the Clone Wars is canon, but it's also kind of not. So I'm going to go off of these two designs that I found on Reddit. We're going to mash them together and kind of use some creative freedom to figure it out. But you get the idea. It's going to be a work in progress, I guess. So anyways, I got all my reference material and I got started on building. If you've been following on Instagram, you know I've been building for, well, it's actually technically been about 2 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks, but I have 8 days of building posted on Instagram. I'm just doing minor updates on Instagram, just photos. I like to just sit down and build without the pressure of having to, like, record it or anything. I like to just let my creativity flow and kind of figure it out, and then go back after the fact and kind of recap what I did. So I guess now I'll take you through those, 8 days on Instagram and I guess 2.5 weeks in person of actual building and show you kind of what I did. Well, funnily enough, I was scrolling Instagram and I found another example of the Clone Wars not being accurate. And, you know, this could just be because they don't want to show the troops running through the entire ship, obviously. But in the episode with where Padme is on the Banking Clan planet with Commander Thorne, and it's Commander Thorne's last stand, remember? Everyone knows that clip, right? They arrived in a Republic frigate, and the frigate is on the landing platform. And when the droids attack, Commander Thorne and his troops are in the frigate watching the invasion fleet happen, right? I'll just go like this and show you guys. Ignore that it's just an Instagram edit. But you can see here that they're standing in front of communications array or something. And you can see here they're running out. They're running. And then, bam, they're right at the boarding ramp, right? So the boarding ramp is on the bottom deck, right? The fourth deck. But that communications room is on the top deck with the bridge. It's right behind the bridge. And And so in the Clone Wars, like obviously they're not going to show them running through the entire ship, but it's just weird because they show them on the top floor and then the very next scene they're running off the ramp. And so that's why it's hard to get a basis of the interior from the actual Clone Wars, because like the show, because the Clone Wars doesn't actually show you everything in the ship. All right, anyways, let's do a quick rundown of what I have built so far. I'm not going to get too in depth. You can go watch the Instagram reels that I have that have kind of followed along. But basically, I started with the top deck and the bridge, specifically the bridge, to get a feel for the scale. So here we have the top deck and the bridge. We'll start up here with the bridge. As you can see, I have the chairs. I have a little bit of room in the back. We have the interior that I've pretty much finished. Got all the details in there. I even have the levers right here that we see in the Clone Wars. And the chairs are the correct colors with the back of the chair. We'll throw pictures up. And the bridge was actually really fun to build. But yeah, I laid out the deck plan to see how long it would be, and then I started just building up to see how it would all work, and to see if this build would work, because if you can do the bridge, you can do the whole thing. And it worked, so I went and ordered the correct colors. As you can see, I have the whole maroon setup. I am missing a couple pieces there. They are ordered. I'm waiting on them. Maroon is the dark red is not one of their best seller pieces, so they just take a little longer to come, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of dark red on this build. But yeah, you can see the vision come together there. The front of the ship comes down lower than the actual deck. It'll come back up and connect, and then you have the big escape pod here, which we will probably build way later on. But you can see I got the window shape there. Going back, you can see how it's all coming together. You can see the vision. Like I can see it. I have pretty good imagination, so I can, like, my vision is totally coming to life right now. But so you got the bridge, chairs. I'm going to incorporate a sliding door. Since it is minifig scale, I want there to be play features. Like, I want this to be a usable build. It's going to be for display, obviously. You're not going to be able to pick it up and move it around. The sections will come apart for transport and just ease of access. But I want there to be removable walls and roofs and roofs. I just want there to be access, and I want it to be playable just because it is minifig scale. So if you can't play with it or, you know, set up your figures in it, then what's the point of being minifig scale? So you can see we're going back here. Like I mentioned, you've got the communications array. Let me pull up the photo. I have like what it actually is here. Alright, so right behind the bridge here, this is the navigator station. The second room would be a multi-com station, and I think they're both that. They're multi-communication rooms. That's what it says on the official picture from Star Wars. And obviously you have the main forward sensors and the bridge here. And I have a sensor dish mocked up. I'll throw up a picture here. And then you have the officer lounge, or they don't have it listed on here, but I assume that's what it is, just like the deck lounge for the pilots and stuff. Excuse me, I cut too soon. And then after that, you have the turbo lift down. And the frigate actually has two turbo lifts, one at the rear and one right here behind the bridge. Because obviously the main deck will go from like about here, something like that, all the way back. And then this right here is where the main big escape pod is. Alright, so then next, before I get into the bottom deck here, what I did after mocking up the bridge deck, or deck one, I don't really know what to call it, we're just going to call it the top deck. What I did is I built out a ruler for how long the ship is going to be. And this has been the biggest help to me, to be honest. I'll try to explain it here as best I can. So what I did is I did the math, and I kind of figured out like what the actual sizing would be in Lego for studs to the 135 meter ship. And it turned out to be about 164 studs, 165 studs, I think. I think I changed it by one, so it's 165 now for the main deck. It's going to be closer to probably 300 total, because it's going to be like 5 or 6 feet long, which is kind of crazy. But so what I did is I took the top deck there, obviously, I mapped that out. And I guessed a little bit on how long it was going to be. So right here you can see the top deck. I forget how long this is here, but from this to this right here, this would be the front turbo lift. So the top deck ends right here and it goes that way. So bridge here, communications, turbo lift, right? Then you go down to the second deck, which would start at the turbo lift right here. And then this is all the crew quarters. And in the picture I have, I will throw up, there are 6 crew quarter rooms. So you would go here, then you've got 1 room, 2 rooms, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you have the essentially bathroom. I forget what they call it in Universe. Something weird like washroom or something. And then yeah, the rear turbo lift would be right here. And this has been the biggest help. So this will be the second deck, which will be below. And then that turbo lift would go down again. And technically, this turbo lift would also go down. So then we move on to the third deck, which would be this long here. And the turbo lift would be right here. Would come down. And this is all storage. So in here we got kind of the main cargo area. This section is the boarding ramp right here. That's 10 studs long. And then right here would be where the escape pod connects on the cargo deck. And then storage area. And then it's different from the consular class to the retrofit, because obviously since it was retrofitted, right here would be escape pods and on either side, and then on either side would be the lower turrets. Yeah. And then a couple more basic rooms, and then the rear turbo lift. And then the third deck, which would be below the crew quarters and the storage deck, would be a deck similar to the storage deck. It would just be wider. It would have the upper turrets here, or somewhere along here, the upper turrets. And then like a conference room and just some random rooms like a med bay, some more storage, stuff like that. And that's where some creativity will come in. I'll figure out those rooms. I have some actual references to rooms in the ship, but I will, maybe we'll do something fun like that. So obviously I started with the top deck so that I could figure out scale, because the bridge is the room on the ship that I had the most reference images of. So once I got that down to scale, I could do the top deck. Now that I've done the top deck, I moved down to the bottom deck. Why the jump from top to bottom instead of top 2, 3, 4? It's because it's easier to build up, obviously. So now that I have the scale down and I have these measurements here, I can go straight to the bottom. And this will allow me to figure out the scale from the bottom. Now I can go up, build this floor, build the floor on top, build the floor on top, and put it all together, if that makes sense. So what I have for the bottom deck, and I apologize, it's kind of in a few pieces right now, but it is a work in progress. So we got the rear turbo lift there. Right here will be a couple storage rooms / extra quarters. We'll see what I decide on. I've got 2 different reference images that I can choose from. I've kind of mixed them together because I can't tell which one's more accurate. So like I said, we're going to use a bit of creative freedom and kind of figure it out. This is Yoda's Starfighter for scale, by the way. So that's Yoda's Starfighter. and this is just the bottom deck. So that's the engines, remember, will go out that way, and then the main escape pod will be out here. So, you know, that's pretty massive. You know what else is massive? So yeah, so we got some storage rooms or bedrooms, we'll find out. Kind of right here will be the lower turret room. Then right here there will be 2 escape pods. Then we come up further, you got just main storage. This is the main storage deck right here. So as you can see, I have the cargo lift. That's what this is. So the lift will go right here. And I do want this to be operational. So when this is sitting on the ground, it'll be theoretically like a couple inches off the ground. The turbo lift will go flat to the ground so that you can load stuff up and bring it onto the ship. But then right here you have the front turbo lift, which, like I said, that'll go all the way up to the main deck. That will not be functional, I don't think. Just seems like a ton of work, and that would be really difficult to make a turbo lift that goes all the way up, especially because I want these floors to be able to be separated and modular. However, the cargo lift and the boarding ramp will both be operational and functional, because you can't not have that. So as you can see, I already kind of have a whipped up boarding ramp. As you can see, it extends down, so you can walk right through as a minifig. So I want to see what this looks like. If you're a minifig walking at this and then you walk kind of up into the ship, that'd be kind of cool, actually. A little bit of a feature I added because I wanted this to be a little unique and accurate to the show and the ship is when the boarding ramp drops, let's drop it here, the little front section actually slides out. So it would slide out like so, and it extends. I don't know how well I could represent that. It's hard to do with one hand, but you can see it's on rails, so it slides back and forth here. Alright, yeah, so unfortunately that's all I have done so far. Well, I say all I have done, but that's actually been like 2 weeks worth of work. And it's been really fun, I will say. But the hard part, the easy part is doing the layout. The hard part is spending the money on all the pieces to finish that, because I can't really start the second floor until I've built up, well, I guess technically the third floor, until I've built up the fourth floor. Since it's on top, it's figuring out all the angles and everything. So we'll see how it goes. Excuse me. We'll see how that goes. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are too. Follow along on Instagram and on YouTube. I'll try to stay up to date with weekly or bi-weekly update videos, but I'm not very good at keeping or staying consistent on YouTube, so we'll have to see. But Instagram, I've been pretty consistent so far, so that would probably be the better place to follow. But yeah, leave any comments or ideas down below. I'm open to suggestions. I've never built anything this big before, so I'd love to hear your ideas and your hacks and everything. So yeah, let me know. I'm going to the Lego store this Wednesday to go look at the Pick-a-Brick wall, see if there's anything I can snag. And yeah, that should be it. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next update, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.